I have a co-host today. Cats. Look at him. He's so cute though. I don't want to move him, but dude. He's my guy who really doesn't like to sit close to anybody, and I can't believe he's tolerating me sitting this close to him for this amount of time.
Can you move, please? Can you scooch over, please, sir? Please, sir? Can you let me sit there?
Hi, how are you today? My name is Shannon and this is my YouTube channel, Whiskey and Wool. You are watching a Cast On With Me episode where I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to take a little bit of take my time to kind of explain all the things about this new cast on that I'm making today. Yeah, welcome. I hope I know these episodes aren't for everyone, so if like some people just don't want the deep dive, they're like, just show me the thing and move on. And if that's you, you don't have to watch. It's okay. I know other people really love this, and I really enjoy using this series to document my makes and talk a little bit about what I'm working on, and not create hour and 20-minute episodes where I'm catching up on my knitting in my knitter's life, but to like have that concentrated time here where then I can say, if you want more information, go watch my Cast On With Me episode. So that's the reason behind this series. I live in northern New Jersey, right across the river from New York City, which you saw a clip of the city. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that clip because that was a different clip than my usual New York City view. But before I do that, let me get into my new cast on. I am going to be making the Vintage Flannel by Johanna. I'm going to be casting on the Vintage Flannel by Johanna. It is this sweater right here. In the book, my other cat, you saw my silver cat, my cinnamon cat is right there staring at me like a rapt audience. Anyway, he's distracting me a bit. Johanna, the pattern is in this book, Strands of Joy. I do not think you can buy the pattern separate. Maybe at some point the book was published by Lana Publishing, so at some point maybe they will be able to. The book has 17 patterns in it, and none of the others really caught my eye. I don't think I'll be making any of the others at this time, but maybe down the road. I don't know. But this one I really, really wanted to make. This pattern, I think I noticed it around December or so of last year. The book came out in 2024. And I remember seeing pictures of it and, the promotional type pictures of it on Instagram and liking it. And then I saw the grocery girls talk about it. I think Tracy in particular was talking about the pattern, and I thought, amazing. I think I'd really, really like that pattern. really like to make it. And whenever I notice a new pattern, my next step is always to go look at my stash and see if there's yarn that I have in my stash to go ahead and cast it on, and if I think the yarn is a good fit. So I kind of put future projects into buckets. One bucket being like pattern I like, yarn I have, and I have the yarn, and then pattern I like but I don't have the yarn. So those generally get pushed off further. I don't cast those on as soon as I do the ones where I've seen a pattern I like and then I also have the yarn. So in this case, I looked through my stash. I felt strongly about the pattern being, or the project being knit. At least one of the colors should be a neutral, like white or light colored neutral, like beige or gray. Gray is not one of my colors. Like, it's not a color I look good in. I do like it. I do have a couple gray things in my wardrobe, but it's not a color. I try to avoid it just because I know it's not flattering on me. The beigey camel family, those look great on me. White, natural white, those are all fine. So I looked at I knew I didn't have enough white, but I wanted to see what my other color would be, and I found this in my stash. This is a gorgeous, like, cobalt blue. The color name is actually Sapphire, by Jill Draper makes stuff. Jill is a New York State yarn producer. She I don't think she has any sheep of her own, but she has a lot of friends that are farmers, and she buys fleece, has it milled to her specifications, and then she dyes it. And she uses only red, yellow, and blue to get the entire beautiful rainbow of colors that she gets. And because it's only a month away, Rhinebeck, her studio, I believe, is in Kingston. Yes, it's in Kingston, which is right across the Hudson River from Rhinebeck, the town of Rhinebeck, where New York Sheep and Wool is. So if you're going to New York Sheep and Wool, I know she always does an event, usually on the weekend of Rhinebeck, New York Sheep and Wool, and she usually does like a really nice studio event where folks gather in the evening. It's usually Sunday. I think lately it's been Sunday evening. Before the pandemic, it was Saturday evening. But I highly recommend, if you're in the area, you're coming, to visit, I would highly recommend. Oh my gosh, I don't know where all these hiccups are coming from. I would highly recommend visiting and checking out her multiple lines of wool. This particular one is Ansel. It's a fingering base made out of 100% superfine merino. All her bases are non-superwash, and she's been in business for a long time, as long as I can remember. She's been around. So, and I have multiple sweaters made out of her yarn. I've made sweaters out of her yarn for my sons. And yeah, it's really beautiful, beautiful stuff. I purchased this sweaters quantity. I have 3 skeins, and the skeins are 440 yards a piece. So I purchased 3 skeins of this in 2020 when everything was shut down, during the shutdown, and I was missing yarny events and just wishing that I could buy some yarn. And she made an appeal too on Instagram about, I think she relied at that time on a lot of on events, and was, at that point we didn't know when the world was going to open again. So it was like a kind of a nerve-wracking, scary time. So I purchased a sweaters quantity, not having a plan for it, and it just went in my stash. So I'm happy now to go ahead and make the vintage flannel out of this. The blue is going to be my main color. I did swatch this a long time ago, like back in probably February. If you've been around a while, I was at that point undecided between 3 different sweaters to cast on, and I did a quiz on YouTube. I said, help me choose, and folks picked one of the other combos, and this was a close second, but I ended up passing over this one and jumping to the other one because it wasn't a colorwork sweater. It was starting to get closer to summertime and warmer months, and I just didn't want to have a colorwork on the needles. But now Summer is waning. Is it the first day of autumn? It might be. I can't remember. It might be autumn equinox today. It's September 21st. So if it's not today, it's tomorrow. So it seems like the perfect time of year to cast on a colorwork sweater. And I actually have 3, maybe 4 colorwork sweaters in my queue to cast on, and it felt like it was time to do this one. So I swatched in the round and then clipped it, and unfortunately, or fortunately I guess, when I swatched, I caught my floats frequently. I two-hand colorwork, so I'll hold a color in each hand, and it makes it real easy. I'm an English knitter. It makes it real easy to catch the floats every couple stitches, so that's my normal process. However, there's a lot of show through. This swatch has been blocked, so it tells me that, you know, that's as good as it's going to get. So this showed that I should not catch those floats at all. I think it's only 5 stitches between, so it should be fine. I'll be able to just carry the floats. And I don't know, I haven't looked that deep into the chart of the graphic knit, and on the back there's another graphic that says purl. So I don't know. I imagine if I have longer than 5 stitch floats in those sections, I will do ladder back so that I don't have really, really long floats, because I don't like long floats, clearly. So yeah, super excited now to cast this on. Is there anything else I need to tell you? Oh, the white yarn I ended up, so I knew going all the way back to the beginning of February, I knew I was going to make this. I did not have enough white in my stash of fingering weight to make this sweater for the white to be the contrast, so I shopped for it at Vogue Knitting Live New York in the first weekend of February, and so this has been simmering, waiting in my stash since February for me to cast on. And the white that I landed on is by Indie Untangled, the organizer of Indie Untangled, Lisa, I think her name is. She has been making this heritage wool collective, so this is American wool. I hope you can read it. It's 100% Debouillet, grown in Montana and milled by Clara Parks. We all know who she is, right? And it is a fingering weight, 355 yards, 3-ply fingering weight, 355 yards, and yeah. So that is what, oops, I had a stitch marker and it just escaped. It was laying on here. I found it. Yay. So that's what I swatched with, those 2 yarns, and they really are beautiful together. And I also I wasn't careful. I wanted to see if the color would bleed at all, and it didn't. I didn't get any bleeding, so that's a good sign. And yeah, without further ado, let me go ahead and cast on. This sweater, I'm going to just tilt the camera down a bit so you can see my hands as I start stitching. This sweater begins with a crochet. Well, you can do any provisional cast on you want, but you begin with a provisional cast on. I usually just do a crochet chain and use that for my provisional cast on. The entire sweater is knit on a US size 6 or 4 millimeter. Oh, gauge. I got gauge. I got stitch gauge. My row gauge is bigger than the pattern. So I'm going to do some modifications that I'll talk about when I get there on the raglan shaping. It is a raglan sleeve, so I'll be doing some modifications. If you've been around a while and you've even watched my latest Knitter's Life, the last couple Knitter's Life, I've talked about the modifications that I did on the current raglan that I am making, and I'll be doing very similar modifications on this one. Not only because my row gauge is bigger than the pattern, but that also just because of the way I am shaped. So I have square shoulders, and I need more rapid increases than the increase every other round raglan shaping that's so common on so many raglan sweaters. So more about that on my next Knitter's Life, when I presumably will be working on the raglan increases at that time. Okay, so provisional cast on, it's a twisted half twisted 1x1 ribs. You're twisting the knits, keeping the purls normal. Knitting double width band and then folding it in half, removing the provisional cast on at that time, stitching all the stitches together, and then you go right into your short rows. So I won't get that far, but I am going to cast on the neckband as I chat with you about some things. So I need to, for my size, and size wise, let me talk a little bit about that as I do this. Trying to find my end. The size recommendation for this pattern is a 7 to 8 inches of positive ease. 7 to 8 inches positive ease for all sizes, which, you know, everyone, hopefully you've been knitting enough that you know what positive ease you like. My general positive ease is 4 to 5 inches, so 7 to 8 is much bigger. However, I know that sweaters that are color work all over tend to feel a little snugger than one that's just stockinette. So, because it's just denser fabric and it doesn't have as much give. So I'm going to go ahead and embrace that 7 to 8 inches of positive ease. I'm going to knit the size 45 inch chest. I think she calls it M2 or M1. Maybe it's M1. And that'll give me, my bust runs around 37 to 38 inches, so I will have the 7 to 8 inches of positive ease. So I am casting on, so it's a 4th size in the pattern, and I am casting on 98 stitches on US size 5. So our ribbing needle is one size down, so US size 5, 3.75. Yeah, so as I do this, let me talk to you a little bit about the clip you saw, not of my cat being the co-host, but the one that was after that, of New York City. I live right along the Hudson River. You saw the Hudson River in the clip. That is about a 5 to 10 minute walk from my house. I don't live down on the shoreline. The Jersey side of New York, at least, even like down to Jersey City, which would be line up about with Chelsea, like the 20th Street, 25th Street, something like that, and on up to Westchester area, maybe even further. There's a cliff, and they're called the Palisades. So the Palisades go all the way up from just south of the Lincoln Tunnel, all the way up the Hudson River, quite a lengthy distance. So I am up on the cliff side of the Hudson River, and I recently discovered that there is a very easy way to, not easy, but convenient, I should say, convenient way near me to get down to that, right on the shoreline, to be right. You could get in the water if you want. I think pollution's still a concern. You will see boaters out there, and I think in the clip there was a jet skier. So you'll see people out in the water on kayaks and paddleboarding, and I don't think I've seen any swimmers. I think pollution's still a concern. However, there's been a big effort to clean up the New York City harbor as well as the Hudson River. So I didn't get in. I just wanted to go down to the shoreline and check it out. I hadn't been down there. I recently realized that it would be a real brief walk for me to go down there. So I'm expecting I'll be going down there more in the coming weeks, as it's still fairly mild, and at least I mean I wouldn't want to. It's a very very, very steep hill that you walk down to get there. A very steep path, and then a very steep uphill coming back. I wouldn't want to do it in icy and inclement weather at all. But and I'm beautiful. We're having a gorgeous weekend, so in this beautiful weather, it was perfectly fine. So that is the story of that clip. I hope you enjoyed it. So I may mix those in. I generally, in my previous Knitter's Life episodes and Cast On With Me episodes, I film up here. I film up on the cliffside, out across all those condos and homes that are right along the shore. Those are all really recently developed houses, like within the past couple decades. Down there instead were a bunch of commercial. It was a lot of commercial property that had some of it had hazardous waste. It's been cleaned up and been developed into homes. So that's that story. Still working on my first row here. Not even halfway. Oops. This is a big cast on. This is a big neck, 98 stitches for the neck. Because it's half twisted, I assume it'll be okay. Yeah, there's nothing worse than having to cut out the neckband because it's too big. Or rip back the neckband. But anyway, I also wanted to just talk to you a little bit about the book that I am currently reading. I am still in the Realm of Elderlings series by Robin Hobb. Not sure if you're familiar or not. I've talked about it before. So it's a series of four trilogies and one chronicle of 4 books. But what the author does, so it's a set of 5, so 5 sets of 3 books. One set is 4 books. And what the author does is she follows, in the first trilogy, she follows one character. The book is told in first person narrative, and it's that person's perspective. You really get sucked in by the character development and the story, this person's life, this man's life. And the first trilogy covers his life from age 6 to about age 20. And it sounds like, it doesn't sound all that interesting reading about from a first person, from a child's perspective, but it's told in a way that as if he's looking back on his life. So it's an adult telling you the story of his childhood. So it's really well done. Really enjoyed it. It has all the feels in it. You'll feel, it's triumphs, it's tragedy, it's sadness, it's happiness, it's there's some romance, there's adventure, there's some violence because it is a fantasy novel. So it's medieval style, Renaissance period violence. And yeah, really, really loved it. The second trilogy, she takes you out of that person's perspective and into a different part of the world, and you learn new things, a new world, new characters. So these books were written in the 90s. She tries some different perspectives. She works in third person perspective instead of first person. She does multiple third person perspectives, so it's not just one person's, you're not following one particular person, you're following many. It makes it really hard to get into any of the characters. I really struggled. I think that technique, I think George R. R. Martin uses that technique in Game of Thrones, and I think it worked well for him. I think he learned from her mistakes, because I know they're friends, and he's a big admirer of hers, and vice versa. She employs it in not a good way. There's just not enough character development or inside character's head, sort of that hook where you're like hooked in by one particular character. There was no, in the first of that trilogy, there's a ton of exposition. She takes moments of the characters' lives where they're on their way to go do something and spends like 5 or so pages explaining some background detail that you're just like, why do I need to know this right now? It's tedious. It makes for a tedious read. I just think that those are some of the things that she, some storytelling techniques that she employs to not a good result. I think those books would have benefited from some good editing. Nevertheless, I persisted and got through them, moved on to the third trilogy, which takes you back to the main character from the first trilogy, and she's back in first-person narrative. The exposition is limited to his own reflections and she also employs this technique, which I do think is effective. She has the narrator, or the narration is a quote from some book from the world, like a history book from that world, where she's explaining something, or it's like a personal letter that was written between two people in that world that explains something that's going to be of importance in the chapter. I think that works really well. Sometimes it's a little frustrating if there's something exciting going on and you're just like, oh gosh, no, I just want to know what's going to happen. But I think it works pretty good. So the third trilogy takes you back to the first. So each trilogy does follow a timeline, though. So the first trilogy is this kid's life from 6 to 20, and then the second trilogy takes place at some point between the third trilogy. The third trilogy picks up this first-person story from age 35, so it's a 15-year jump. So presumably what happened in that 15-year period is what happened in the second trilogy, but elsewhere, not to him. And then that trilogy spans about 3 years, and then there's a chronicle of 4 books that takes you back to the second area. I skipped that one because after suffering through that second trilogy, I was just like, I'm not going to go back to that area right now. I may circle back to that when I'm done with this last trilogy, the 5th series in this arc. all these books in this world, because it's 16 books. In the 16 books that tell the story of this world, I don't need to read. I learned from Trilogy 2 the little bit of information that was relevant to Trilogy 3. The author retold anyway, so I was like, you know what, I'm good. I'll learn what I need to know. The author will tell me. So now I've started the second trilogy that was told in first person about that character from age 35 to 38 is excellent. So good. It wrapped up a lot of the loose ends that were in the first trilogy ended on. Really, really great. I will have, I'm sure by now, popped on titles and screenshots of the different trilogies. Anyway, I've moved on. It's so funny though. Let me just see how I'm doing on time. I'm doing good on time. It's so funny to me though how sensitive people are about that second trilogy. So I've tried to engage with folks on some fantasy blogs and stuff like that, and on Reddit, and you cannot say anything bad about that series. You're not allowed. You will just get knocked down, to the point where it's just like, to me it was so insane, like how sensitive people are about it. Like, you're just, no criticism allowed. I mean, and I've been reading fantasy since I was 11 years old when I discovered The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien, and I just devoured every fantasy novel that there was, and all the way up through the early 90s when I became a mom, and then I took a break. I still continued to read one series. I read the Wheel of Time series up through book 7, but I didn't have as much time to read, of course, because I was a new mother and doing the parenting thing. Then I went to grad school, just enough time to read for pleasure at all, and then so it took me some time to get back into reading regularly. And yeah, so I'm not. I think that's how I missed reading Robin Hobb. She was publishing her first, well-received fantasy novels in the 90s when I was raising kids. So, and I probably talked about this before. Anyway, I think I have all my stitches cast on, so I'm going to do a quick count. I have one extra. I will drop that stitch and join in the round, and I'm ready to go. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna sit and knit a little bit and come on back and show you progress. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna sit and knit a bit. I'm gonna let you go, but I'm gonna knit a little while, and then I'm gonna put a clip in of my of a few rows. You can take a look at it, because I don't think you're not going to be able to see this yarn. Yeah, it's just a big blue blob, so I don't think it's going to be such a good picture of it. So thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed my chattering about vintage flannel. I'm excited to have this sweater done and in my wardrobe. I'm excited to work on it too. I think it's a really cool graphic design, and I think that graphic design is something that's happening and hot right now. So, and of course, I want to show my I think the irony of it saying knit is really cool. So anyway, what are you working on? What are you casting on this autumn? I have a few other colorwork sweaters that will definitely be jumping on my needles as I wrap up my projects that are sitting over here. I am on sleeves on 2 projects, which made this seem urgent. Need to get this going so that I don't have that I have nothing on my needle sadness, because I've had that before, and that is not a fun place to hang out. So anyway, I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.